other people came in from other countries, and I think, just some of them may be curious about who I was, but that was the main thing that I noticed about being there. I also remember that after I was given my engagement ring, which was like a phony kind of plastic thing, for less than $100, which Henry encouraged him to buy, I remember some women mocking me over it, like looking at it and pretending to say it was very pretty and then laughing to people. I just ignored that. I mean, I had already seen the rings that were supposed to be for the wedding, and they weren't, they were not the plastic type. Like they were made out of something, like platinum or some kind of metal, and then had little diamonds in them. And then Alvaro had engraved our names on the inside of the ring. And it was weird because there were a couple of times where I could catch an expression from him where it looked like he really did like me, like he was almost in love with me, like really in love with me. And then I would notice this, and then he would try to guard it. Like he didn't want me to know how in love with me he was. And then other times, he was trying to screw me over. I mean, he was setting me up. So, okay, it's like this guy's really in love with me, and this is getting blurry right now, and I'm really tired of somebody screwing around with my camera. So supposedly he's really in love with me, but he's also ruining my life at the same time, and colluding with other individuals to ruin my life. I mean, he was taking orders from other people to do things to keep me from doing things, so that it benefited a different group. And then one day, and then I met somebody from the CIA who said he couldn't talk to me because I was dating Alvaro, but probably Alvaro was CIA too. And I just had this show going of, I can't talk to you because you're dating someone who a CIA employee can't have communications with, or something or other. And all I know is that, I was, so then Alvaro, at one point, he even asked he said that this one friend of his, a relative, he said that she worked at a restaurant and did I want a job as a waitress there, and he asked if I wanted him to look into it, and I did. I would have said yes right away and done the waitressing, because that's what I liked, at that time that's what I enjoyed doing. But I was really, my body was taking a toll with the incompleted miscarriage. And because I was in so much pain, and even if I didn't say so all the time, I mean, I never said to him, I didn't complain to him every single day. In fact, I never complained. I mean, we had the same food for days after days after days at first, and I had a lot of pain later from this whole incompleted miscarriage, but I wasn't a complainer. And so when I didn't take a waitressing position, I think he was fine with that. I think he understood why, but I don't know for sure. And then he wanted me to be more involved with writing the notes for the engagement party and that kind of thing, and I didn't want to go out, and usually I would be a lot more social, and I would have done things like that, but I was not feeling well. I wasn't feeling good. And I know that he really wanted to be in the United States and work, and I really wanted my son. And he acted like, he was interested in me. However, towards when all these other weird things had happened, and then, he did do some good things too. There were other good things about it. But when all is said and done, when he just kind of doesn't care if I'm being tortured in Wenatchee anymore. I mean, he was trying to find out who the father of my son was too, to give that information to somebody else who wouldn't have used it to my best interest. I already said I didn't know, but he's still trying to kind of fish for that. And, when I had broken up with him, he had to have known. He had to have known what was happening to me. And I was being basically forced to sleep in the streets. I was being humiliated. I was forced out of housing. I was getting tortured again. And instead of, just being a good person and defending me in the sense of, well, maybe we're not together anymore, but validating me, he said, well, maybe you're crazy. Maybe you are crazy. He totally invalidated me. And that was pretty much the last time that I talked to him until recently when, well, that was an email that he sent recently. But maybe you are crazy. I mean, what kind of a person says something like that when he knew all of these things about what had happened to me? And not only that, when I was at that house in Germantown, Maryland, the one time that I didn't sleep in his bed, that I said I was going to sleep on the couch, I got tortured for wanting to sleep on the sleep sofa. I basically was tortured so badly. It was the same pain that my son and I suffered in East Wenatchee every single day without any break. And it was also the same pain that also matched what sent me to the hospital thinking that I was with preterm labor. When I was 7 months pregnant with my son, the exact same pain started to occur in my lower back, and I had to go to the hospital. And I was in so much pain, it was the exact same thing. And at that point I knew it was technology. And I knew it was connected to the other times that it had happened to me. And I had just wondered, why is this happening at my fiance's house? I mean, so then I show up at the emergency room, and they had to give me a bunch of painkillers because I was in very serious pain. And Alvaro was there when I was going to the hospital, and he was there to pick me up, and we had dinner together. I liked the Colombian people in general. I mean, I don't have any problem with, in general, Colombians at all. And I think that they maybe wanted to do something even better for me than maybe what I had thought originally. Like at first they were a little more, some of them were more optimistic about me, and then maybe some of them had reservations about it. But there was definitely some group that was just not working on my side. And I ended up being finally in the hospital again and needing a surgery, the DNC. And I remember it was this black doctor, it was an African American woman. I don't know if she knew that African American nurse that we first stayed with, but she was an African American doctor. And I remember she and Alvaro exchanging looks, like they kind of like, I didn't have a good feeling about it. It wasn't a very good look that they exchanged. It was sort of like devious. Like they had something that they both knew was going to happen, and I didn't know what it was, and it wasn't good. And by that point, I had already, Alvaro already knew that I had canceled the papers because he wanted to sign for a marriage license. And we signed it, and then he left with a copy. But then I went back to the courthouse after he left and I had it voided. And he pretended like he didn't know I had done that first night, but I knew that he knew because I could see it in his eyes. He looked at me in such a different way that I knew he knew. And he never said anything, but then, I'm having this surgery, and he already knew by that time, and then they're exchanging these weird looks, and all I know is that since that surgery, I've had some really weird things happening with my heart. And I've had even CTs and different weird things being done directed towards my heart, like there is something there that somebody wants to be always checking in on. And I was told that a metal stent is to the heart, or in the chest region, is placed through the groin. So basically, if she was doing a DNC, through my pelvic region, they had access to put a stent into my heart, or near my heart, or under my rib cage in that area. And I had people doing targeting me for torture in a whole totally new, different way after I broke up with Alvaro to my heart. So I think it's very possible. I had somebody tell me straight out that I had a metal stent there. That's what they did during that DNC. And I remember after that surgery happened, Alvaro was trying to break up with me. I mean, I'm like on my hospital bed, and Alvaro was saying that he didn't know if he could do it. Maybe we should break up. I mean, why did he want to break up? Because he wanted to get out as soon as he could after he knew that a metal stent and some weird stuff had been put into my body again? Or he didn't have a reason. He didn't tell me. I got upset a couple times. He didn't like seeing me upset, but I was in extreme pain. And I think there's one time in the hospital I yelled about something to someone. I can't remember who it was. But I was in a lot of pain, and I was sort of rude or something, and he didn't like that. But that's not why he was breaking up or wanting to. And then he decided he wouldn't. Then he decided he didn't want to. So, basically, if he knew that I had voided the marriage license, and then he brought me all the way up to have this surgery, and then he's wanting to break up with me, it's very possible he did know what was done to me in that surgery. And he just wanted to get the heck out. I mean, I don't know. Then we were going to go forward with it. In my mind, I thought, well, I voided the certificate. I feel better about that, but I can always, if I have more time to check him out and see how he is, because I did have feelings for him by that time. I thought if I have more time to see how he responds to certain situations, and if he keeps his promises, and to see how he is, then I'll just go ahead and go forward with this engagement party. And then I can always sign one of these licenses later. There was no reason why it had to be a certain time. I mean, I could sign it later and that was fine. And that's if I decided to go ahead and go through with everything, because I was under no obligation to go through with everything if he's stabbing me in the back. And his little group was stabbing me in the back. Trying to keep me down, not wanting my voice to be heard, not wanting to have anybody hear me singing, and there's just, I remember I think there are a few